Should your yoga practice change when you have your period? This is a question I get asked all the time. So whether you are a yoga teacher and you're wondering how should you modify your practice if someone in your class has their period, or whether you're a yogi yourself and wondering what you should actually be doing when you're on your period, this is going to be the video for you. So before we get into it, I would love to introduce myself. My name is Bettina. I specialize in yoga for fertility, for pregnancy, for birth, and early motherhood. And the reason I think this is such an important topic is because I believe that women should really ebb and flow with their cycle as opposed to living at full steam ahead 100% of the time. And from the women that I work with, if you're not giving yourself the rest, especially at these key times of the cycle, I often see that they burn out. I find that they have really intense PMS symptoms, or that their menstrual cycle is all out because they haven't taken the time to rest when they need. So let's dive into what should you actually be doing when you have your period. Is it okay to practice yoga? How should you modify your practice so that you can honor what your body as a woman is doing instead of trying to practice like a man? We're very different from men. Our bodies cycle hormonally, energetically throughout the month, as opposed to the 24-hour cycle that men go through. So if you're already quite in tune with your cycle, you probably already noticed that when you have your period, you feel tired and sleepy and a little bit irritated from the outside world. And there is a reason for that. It's our body telling us it's time to rest, it's time to turn inward. At this point of the cycle, our hormones are at their absolute lowest. Our hormones are intricately linked in how our energy levels ebb and flow. And so at this time of the cycle, our body feels bloated and heavy. We might feel lethargic and maybe almost in like quite a dream-like state. Like that logical mind is just not there. If you've ever tried to do anything financial or really logical, your budget or your tax, when you've got your period, you probably notice that you just end up feeling frustrated and angry. This is because our mind just isn't there at this time. Our hormones aren't supporting that logical function of the brain, and our body really just wants to rest and recover. If you think about what your body is doing at this time, it's almost like a mini birth. Our uterus is contracting in order to release the lining of the uterus. Just as during birth, our uterus contracts to expel the baby. It's a similar sort of thing. Obviously, it's not as intense as birth because the size is so different, but I describe it in that way because I hope that it helps you to almost find a little bit more respect for what your body is doing at this time. And if you've been here for a while and you're on a fertility journey, I know it's hard to respect what your body is doing when it's doing the exact opposite of what you would like it to be doing. I want to recognize that for you, that's a really hard place to be in. And if that's you right now, I've recently shared a meditation for when you're on your period, so I recommend going and checking that one out. I hope it will help you to release some of those negative feelings that you might be feeling towards your body at this time. So if you're feeling lethargic, you're feeling bloated, you're not logical, you really can't get into that external world at all, and you want to turn inward, what should your yoga practice look like? It should be gentle. It should be restorative. It shouldn't move very fast or maybe even at all. So for me personally, I mostly stay on the ground. They're restorative poses. I might do a little bit of a kneeling sequence if I'm feeling it, needing to stretch out through the hips. I might move into a pigeon pose, but I'm certainly not coming into a standing sequence. I'm not moving through any sort of fast vinyasa or anything like that. I'm also skipping inversions at this time. If you think about what's happening in an inversion, it's reverting the flow of blood from where it would naturally go when you have your period. So rather than moving into shoulder stand and the blood flowing back towards the body, we want to encourage that apana, that downward flow of energy in the natural way that it's already moving. So we skip inversions at this time. I also recommend that you skip any sort of belly compression. We don't want to cause any constriction at this time because the body is already naturally releasing, and you want to allow the body to do that without interfering with it in any way. So you don't want to constrict and then potentially have blood pooling in a certain area and then perhaps causing any sort of clots. We really just want to let the body do what it needs to do without getting in the way. You'll probably also notice at this time that belly compression just doesn't feel good. You won't want to have your leg pressed against your belly. You won't want to lie on your belly because that part of you is swollen and sore. And I think it's a really nice way to honor your body by respecting that and not putting yourself into any sort of discomfort. You also don't want to ask the abdominals to really contract and do any sort of work, especially if you're feeling any sort of cramping. It's not going to feel nice to then move into a boat pose and ask the belly to hold on. It's really about softening and releasing at this time, just as it would be during birth. We want to let the belly be soft and relaxed. A restorative style of yoga at this time as well, I often find helps the rest of the stages of the cycle. If I see a woman in the studios who's having really bad PMS, who might have quite an irregular cycle, or is suffering from anything like PCOS or endometriosis, often a big factor in this is that she's working too hard around the clock. I feel like we as women just do too much generally, and this is putting a toll on that delicate hormonal balance that goes on throughout our cycle. And I see it all the time. We just push through, we pretend we don't have our period, we keep doing the same level of high intensity exercise, and we expect ourselves to work at this level all year round. And instead what happens is our body starts sending us these signals that it can't keep up. And it's usually our hormonal system, our reproductive system, our menstrual cycle that is the canary in the gold mine telling us something is wrong. And we might put it down to, oh, there's just something wrong with my body, but actually it's your body asking you to let it rest and restore when it's supposed to. And a key time for this is when you have your period, when you're feeling low energy, when your body really wants to rest. It's really important to listen. And if you do listen, this is the magic, that when you do listen and when you do slow down and you give yourself, even if it's just those 2 days, the first 2 days of your cycle, to really rest. It doesn't mean you don't go to work. It doesn't mean you don't do anything. You can take a gentle walk, but instead of being 110, bring it back to 40%. Go to bed earlier. Have a nap in the afternoon. And what I see all the time is when women start to do this, their cycle starts to balance out. They feel happier in their body, their PMS symptoms ease. And this state of slow and rest also helps them to examine other areas of their lives and make better choices on the whole. So if you're feeling like amped up, like all these things are going wrong in your menstrual cycle, I would really encourage you to start with looking at how you treat yourself when you have your period, modifying your yoga practice, also modifying your life a little bit as well, and then seeing if after a couple of months things don't start to ease a little bit. I think you'll probably find that this helps a lot and you'll be feeling a lot better after a couple of months. Remember, this isn't a quick fix. This isn't something you can do once and expect to be fixed. It is a way of living. It is a lifestyle. It's about listening to your body, tuning into the energy levels of your body, and really giving yourself the rest and the care that you need. If you have any other questions about practicing yoga when you have your period, or perhaps living by the cycle, please leave them in the comments below. If you are a yoga teacher and you're interested in knowing more about practicing yoga around the menstrual cycle, I'll leave a link below for my fertility yoga guide. And if you are coming to this video as a yogi and wanting to know more about practicing fertility yoga, I have a guide for you as well. It will be linked below in the description. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.